Deontay Wilder is a better boxer than you think. So in this video, we're going to look at the science behind the power. Because power is only effective if you can land it. So let's do our due diligence and go to the film study. If you look at Deontay Wilder, he has his left hand low. Also, his head is positioned more on the center line as opposed to the back foot. So you see some subtle movement with his left hand. Then you see a quick jab from Wilder thrown from the waist, and then a quick left hook. Now the left hook is thrown like a slap. Its purpose is to deflect the attention from the right hand. Now the opponent is stepping to the left, which is creating a different angle. So Deontay Wilder at this point is setting a trap. Let me explain. So Deontay steps in with the jab, but then immediately steps back because his opponent counters a straight right to the body, but then Deontay counters the straight right with a left hook and a big right hand. Now there are a few things to mention here. Now the step back from Deontay creates the opportunity for the counter because the opponent's counter right puts his body over his front foot. So when Deontay Wilder steps back, his hands are in the air. This means his punches have a shorter trajectory, and the short left hook sets up the big right hand. Now in this sequence, the opponent is stepping to the right, creating a new angle. Deontay Wilder steps in with a jab to the body and then steps back. Now the opponent tries a counter with the right, but the step back nullifies the punch. The opponent then steps in with a jab, but again the step back from Deontay Wilder makes the punch miss. This is why footwork is so important. Now Deontay Wilder's left hand is low, but then he raises it before throwing a jab. His opponent is now stepping to the left, and this is changing the angle again. But then the opponent takes a subtle step to the right. Now Deontay Wilder throws a jab straight right, and this next detail is important. Deontay Wilder is punching through the target, meaning his head is now over his front foot. Some boxing purists see this as a mistake, but here is an alternative perspective. If you set it up correctly, punching through the target maximizes the chances for a knockout, but it also increases the chances of getting countered. Therefore, punching through the target at the right time is a skill. Now the opponent tries to counter with the right hand, and they both miss. Now Deontay Wilder is temporarily in a vulnerable position, but then gets back into position and his opponent is unable to capitalize. Think of this, sometimes punching through the target is worth the risk. Now we can break this attack down into three phases. Phase 1, Deontay uses the jab to get in range and then throws a right hand through the target. Now instead of getting back into a defensive position, he then launches a big left hook. In boxing, we call this the 1, 2, 3. Now his opponent is stepping to the right, which leads us to phase 2. Deontay Wilder jabs to the body, feints with the left, and then throws a right uppercut to the head. Now the opponent is moving out of range, trying to survive, which leads to phase 3, where Deontay Wilder uses a half step with a jab with his head on the center line and launches a right hand through the target. Now the opponent is relying on his feet to get away, but the quick step closes the distance and the fast 1-2 through the target ends the night. So in phase 3, the speed of the step to get in range is so crucial, and the angle of the attack is actually helped by the opponent because he takes a subtle step to the right, which actually becomes detrimental. Think of this, because Deontay Wilder is firing the punch from the center/front foot, this creates the angle necessary for a devastating knockout. So they are both in a clinch and the referee is going to break them. Now some boxers can temporarily switch off from a break, even for a millisecond, which can create an opportunity. So at this point, there is significant distance and this can make an opponent feel safe. Now Deontay Wilder holds his right glove with his left glove, concealing his weapon. He literally then jumps in with a jab/feint, and here comes the nuance. So his opponent starts with his hands high, but when Deontay steps forward, he tries a left uppercut, which removes his left hand placement. That means when Deontay throws a straight right through the target, there is no block to stop the punch. So there are some key things here. Phase 1, the quick reaction after the referee separates them, is crucial. Phase 2, the quick step creates the punching opportunity. Phase 3, the attempt at the left uppercut from the opponent creates a gap for the punch to land. And finally, phase 4, punching through the target enables the knockout. Think of this, in boxing there is no one way to do things. For example, there is the right time to punch at the target, and then there is the right time to punch through the target. Boxing is all about nuances, and that's why it's all about understanding the context. Okay, so we've explored some of the technique of Deontay Wilder. We've explored the technique, but now let's look specifically at the power. And when we talk about Deontay Wilder, we have to talk about the power, because there's a relationship between Deontay Wilder and power. But here is a question, and it's a genuine question. Where does the power come from? Is it just a case of technique, or are you born with this power? Or, alternatively, is it a combination of both? Also, are there other factors? Are there other factors to power, such as someone's psychology? Let me explain. Would a power puncher with negative psychology, would a power puncher with negative psychology punch less hard? And would a power puncher with positive psychology hit harder? But surely there's a practical element in terms of you're either a power puncher or you're not, or there's a scale. And of course, accuracy surely is another crucial factor. And like many things, there are a selection of variables. Think of this. What is power if you can't land it? What is power if you can't land it? Also, doesn't speed maximize the power? Surely this is a combination of speed, accuracy, position, and power. And that's the matrix that creates a power puncher. And of course, there are variables. There are sequence of variables. For example, George Foreman. What a great fighter he was. He didn't have speed, but he had massive, massive power. And then there's Ernie Shavers. And remarkably, Ernie Shavers, according to some anecdotal evidence, hits harder than George Foreman. Let's put that in context. Shannon Briggs said that George Foreman, I believe he said something like getting hit by Foreman was like getting hit by a car. And Evander Holyfield, the legend Evander Holyfield, who fought Bo, Tyson, Lennox Lewis, all power punchers, said George Foreman hit the hardest. So considering that George Foreman's power is like a 10 out of 10, considering his awesome power, Ernie Shavers' power must have been simply out of this world. But the Deontay Wilder context is different. Or perhaps we should pose the question, is the Deontay Wilder power context different? I would argue it is, because it's power mixed with speed and timing. And this, of course, is the nuance of boxing, and boxing is all about nuances. Also, his knockout shot is the 1-2, primarily the straight right, which is set up with the half step. Shavers, for example, I believe it was the right hook. Foreman, it was the hooks. Joe Frazier specifically was the left hook. Rocky Marciano, it was the Suzy Q, which was the right hand. Now, Deontay Wilder, let's get it straight. He has amazing power. He has scary power. So think of this. Perhaps we can define Deontay's power in like 4 elements, which is like natural ability, technique, fast twitch muscle dominance, and accuracy. So Wilder was the knockout artist in the heavyweight division for this generation. And his knockouts were scary, and the evidence was very real. He only needed one moment of clarity, just one moment of clarity, and the fight was over. He was a part of the boxing algorithm, a part of the global boxing algorithm. And here's a question, an important question. What is the currency of Deontay Wilder on social media? What is the currency in social media? Well, if we look at the YouTube universe, you can see a clear reference point. So, for example, if you search for the most popular videos, you will see a video titled, I believe, the Wilder versus Fury 1 video, and that has 33 million views. And then there's another video which is called 5 Times Deontay Wilder Shocked the Boxing World, 8.7 million views. And then another video called Deontay Wilder Top 10 Knockouts, which has 8.4 million views. So what does this mean? It means that the Deontay Wilder brand is global. It means that the Deontay Wilder brand is global. His name, the Deontay Wilder name, is synonymous with knockouts. And in effect, we can say quite convincingly that Deontay Wilder is or was a marketer's dream. Think of this. On one level, boxing is entertainment. And the knockout artist brings a high currency of value to the table. And I think the compelling question is, who was the hardest puncher? Who is the hardest puncher? And there are so many candidates, so many. You have Ernie Shavers at the top, George Foreman, Rocky Marciano, what a great right hand he had, Joe Frazier, tremendous left hook, Sonny Liston, Mike Tyson, and don't forget Tommy Morrison. He hit really, really hard. I think Lennox Lewis said that Tommy Morrison was the hardest puncher he ever fought. And notice the characterization that I'm making here. Notice the characterization. We're talking about the hardest punchers, not the best boxers. But how do we determine the hardest puncher? Is it simply anecdotal evidence, or is there a scientific method? So is it simply anecdotal evidence, or is there a scientific method? If we go on anecdotal evidence, the hardest puncher may be Ernie Shavers, because everyone who talks about him suggests that his punching power is absolutely phenomenal. But as we have discussed, there are so many elements to being a knockout artist, whether it's speed, accuracy, position, awareness, etc. And some of these things are objectively true. For example, Joe Frazier has an amazing left hook. Tommy Morrison has an amazing left hook. Rocky Marciano has the Suzy Q. And Deontay Wilder objectively has a devastating one too. Think of this. Just like Greek mythology, everyone has different powers. We don't know who has the best power, but when we talk about knockouts, Deontay Wilder needs to be part of that conversation. And here is another interesting observation. They say, and when I say they, I'm referring to the experts, that power comes from the legs. So if you look at someone like David Tua, you'll see huge legs and huge power. But Deontay Wilder has very, very skinny legs. Now, remember, the exception is not the rule. The exception is not the rule, but this is truly remarkable. And it feeds back into the natural element of his power. And it goes back to the question, where does the power come from? That's the question. Where does the power come from? And there are other questions, like, is there a method to this madness, or is it just simply natural power? Let's not forget the strategic element of the power evidenced by the film study part of this video. But as we've stated, it's not just power. It's how he lands the power. It's the traps. It's the boxing intelligence. It's the nuances. Think of this. The knockout artist has a special place amongst fans. The knockout artist has a special place amongst fans. And the label knockout artist is important because it's not just about power. It's an art in delivering that power. So that's the end of the video. Now I'm trying to build a digital boxing community, and that means I'm interested in your comments, I'm interested in your questions, and I'm interested in your observations. Now, if you want to support the channel, all you need to do is simply like and subscribe. And if you want to watch more content, then simply click here or click here. As always, thanks for your time. It is much appreciated. Peace.